Hi, everybody. Welcome back. My name is Deborah Peters, and this is the Deborah Peters Show. This is all about creating conscious communities around the world where you can make a distinct shift in your life. There's 5 main pillars that we cover on this show. They are health, wealth, relationships, self-expression, and business. And at the heart of all of that is really our communities and how we come together as individuals, as families, as business leaders, and what we contribute essentially to make that community a better place to live. If you're going to live your life on the leading edge of thought, it starts with being self-aware. And what that means is you can't bury your head in the sand about the way things are, the way you're being, the way you're thinking, the way you're relating to the neighbor that lives next door, and whether we look out for one another or whether we just turn a blind eye. I know for me, I got out of the city for that very reason. I wanted to get away from the nameless, faceless kind of environment that I was living in, to where people were more community oriented and they would wave at you and say hi to you, and you felt like you belonged. So today's a really powerful segment, and it is about our children. There's nothing more important on this planet, in this world, than how we care for our children. And, you know, you've heard me talk a lot about different segments on child welfare, from how we care for our kids to the safety in our school system. And so today's guest is a returning guest of mine and becoming a good friend of mine, Anthony Sabio. He's got an amazing background. I think if there's anybody that knows about child safety, it's this guy. So former CIA, Secret Service, U.S. Marine. Thank you for your service, Anthony, and welcome back. It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me today.
You know, it's every time we talk, it's just another eye opener of how we really, as residents and citizens, have to get involved in our communities. It's the only way that we're going to shape this country back into a place of freedom.
No, I totally agree. And just recently, I was approached by numerous people in the community to actually take that step forward. I'm always preaching out to a lot of people. You got to take that step. You got to be involved, and you got to help make a difference. And recently, I've been asked to do the same thing, and I'm very honored to do that.
Yeah, you mentioned you're running for school board in Fairfax County, which is in Virginia. I think that's probably the hotbed of where, all the action's been going on, with the parents standing up and protecting their children and being more vocal at school board meetings. What exactly is going on there?
Well, it's crazy. It's worse than I thought. Just writing about the different school shootings around, and kind of the mental health that's affecting our kids in various publications. Really diving in and talking with the community, talking with parents and support groups of teachers and kids. These are parents that are banding together and they're creating organizations. And what I'm finding out is alarming. One, our schools are beyond what anyone could think out there, lacking in security. It's what we call it in the Secret Service law, smoke and mirrors, is when you put the persona that something's secured, but it's really not. And reality is, me being a subject matter expert and looking at this from the optic of security, I'm seeing a lot of holes everywhere. I'm seeing a lot of money going into pet projects and away from schools, going away from law enforcement. It's going to be a point where it's a national crisis. And if this is happening here outside the nation's capital, it's happening everywhere in your community, from California all the way to the East Coast. It's happening in every community.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what's interesting? So, I was involved with the LAPD for 5 years on their board, their Community Police Advisory Board. And so I have a lot of still really good friends in law enforcement from different agencies. And kind of the consensus is that somewhere at the top of some pyramid or echelon, there's a movement to completely dismantle all the community policing. So whether that's your local city police or your county police or whatever the setup is, and the objective is to go to a more single nationalized police force. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's rumors all about that. Nationalizing, because a lot of these local police forces, they do get national funding, and so there
Sure.
is a lot of stipulations they put in place, which is going to be, I feel, one of the worst things that can happen. Police
I
community,
agree.
having police you being accountable to the community that pays their salaries is something very important. And when we start looking at policing and what they're doing and the effects are happening, it's all around. I wouldn't say it's just one side of the aisle or the other that
I
has it
agree.
causing huge effects there. This is a systemic thing that's happening there. Not being able to back up our police force, not being able to allow them to do their job is creating uh, a drop in the ranks. I think over here you're looking at a 30% reduction in the police force. They're
Oh my
just not
God.
wanting to get. They can't get candidates. They can't get good police officers either to stay anymore or want to join the force. And that's a ripple down effect. It affects where can we put our resources for our kids and how is that going to look?
Mm,
What are we doing for them? Because the less police force we have out there, the less resources for school resource officers we could put out in our schools. Right now,
sure.
Fairfax County, just elementaries, 141 elementary schools, over
Wow.
two over 200 schools from elementary all the way up to high school. That's a lot of schools that's not being covered. The police force can't be everywhere. And they used
Yeah.
to have, I talked to some law enforcement, they used to have clusters of officers that worked certain areas and they were responsible for certain schools.
Hmm.
That program ended, years ago, and we're trying to uncover the reasons why. I suspect it's because a lot of the pet projects that are paying uh, that took that money away from the police force and pushed it into other areas. We're still uncovering that, but there's a question there, and that's something that I want to bring back. We have to have that in our communities.
We absolutely do. I mean, well, first of all, just to kind of completely take a step back, having to have police security in our schools is like that's a whole other conversation. But knowing that we need it and then we don't have it, I mean, as a parent, how can you, in good conscience, drop your child off at that school? I mean, I don't think I could.
No, you can't. And this is the crazy thing about living in Northern Virginia. We have a lot of government facilities out here. We also have a
Right.
lot of government contracted companies out here that have more security than our schools. So, meaning the parents are going to a secure location, and yet
Right.
they're dropping off their kids in an unsecure location. And some of these things are dealing with the facility, the buildings. We have in Fairfax County over 800 trailers being used
Unbelievable.
as classrooms. Now, if you follow the rules of DHS, run, hide, fight, where are
Hmm.
you hiding these things?
Yeah.
When I was in Iraq and Afghanistan, we had to stay in those trailers. We at least put sandbags around it because we understood that there was no safety within them.
Right.
And a
Right.
lot of these trailers, they're having kids with special needs being in these trailers. So now
Interesting.
the most vulnerable of our kids are put in the worst situation.
What's fascinating about that is I remember back in the day when the whole trailer thing became a thing,
Yeah.
and it was actually just supposed to be a temporary fix while the school did whatever they needed to do, the school board, whatever they needed to do to expand that school. But seems to me now it's just a band-aid that's got a never-ending story to it. It's gone on for decades and it doesn't seem to be changing.
I have pictures of this and on my website, it's vote for Tony for school board. Uh, I'm putting up pictures of these trailers. These trailers are falling apart. They've been up for at least a decade. To me,
Unbelievable.
that's a permanent structure. And so
Yeah.
what are we doing as far as facilities? What are we pushing our money towards? Now, I did find out that Fairfax School Board, they did authorize to go green with buses. So they put money aside to change all the buses to either hybrid or all electric. Yet we have our
Wow.
kids in trailers,
Yeah,
and we
that's
don't.
something those buses could have been just phased out as they, cycled out of being like, okay, we have to replace them because they're old or whatever. They could have just been phased out one at a time, not
Well, yes, but such a big initiative because it's just not the buses. You have to create the facility, the charging stations. That means all these areas, these bus depots that are holding all these buses have to be retrofitted with charging stations. So you're just not looking at a bus, you're looking at the
the
actual
infrastructure to support
infrastructure
it.
to
Yeah.
support it. Exactly. And we're doing that on that side because we have pet projects such as green pet projects, but yet we have our most vulnerable kids, our kids in special education, in trailers.
You know what this smacks of is the whole gas stove thing. It
Yes.
has nothing to do with anything other than a push on this green initiative to make sure that everything runs off an electricity grid that can't maintain or host the load. But yet, I still maintain that it just comes back to a single switch of control. I mean, if
Mhm.
your whole life is on an electrical grid from your heating, your cooking, your driving, your working, everything is on an electrical grid. It's one switch and you're shut down.
No, I agree. And not saying that we cannot have these initiatives. You know, as technology gets better, it gets stronger, the go green, the electric vehicles will get stronger. But we have to put things in priority. We got to look at, okay, what the here and now, what is our main concern? And our main concern, the here and now, is the infrastructure of our schools and also school safety. A funny thing is, I actually went to a school board meeting last month, and I actually spoke, and I spoke about school safety and why are we not putting more money, especially into our elementary schools. During the course after I spoke, one of the school board members actually turned to me when they were talking about a new reading program and said, and literally singled me out by looking towards me and said, "This is where we need to focus on, not on school safety. That's not our priority."
Wow.
Now, she gave me a soundbite that's going to be forever used. And recently, she started to retract on that, saying school safety is very important. But
Of course.
your words,
It's
it's
too
going to be
late.
forever
It's too
there.
late. The horse is out of the barn.
And then on top of that, all the other 11 school board members did not challenge her on that.
That's the worst part.
And
So it's a situation of groupthink.
yes, completely.
There's
It's
no
essentially.
individuality, no critical thinking, looking at having sort of like this bigger vision of where this could end up down the road. Anytime you make a decision, particularly one that has safety repercussions for children,
Mhm.
you might want to just look down the road, a few years and just ask yourself the question, is this really the best decision in this moment that we should be making?
Exactly. And I totally agree with that. And what we're seeing is these initiatives that are coming out and putting money towards these initiatives. And what I say to a lot of parents in the community when I speak is if there's a 1% chance, that we may have a school shooting in Fairfax County, shouldn't we not do everything we can to prevent that 1% chance?
Of course.
I mean, we do so much, for everything else, but yet we're not handling those things. The other thing I started seeing and talking with teachers and talking with school board personnel, and we're talking about prior school board personnel and parents, is this: so much emphasis has swayed away from school safety to a point where it is a afterthought. It is something that is not important. And I don't know if it's because we transitioned from homeschool COVID to now the schools are open, and we totally forgot the reality.
I have a hard time accepting that.
Yeah. I just don't know where it lies, because I see so many times that the emphasis on school safety is just not there.
Well, it's interesting because I think, we need to connect the dots here, but hold on a second. Got a really nice comment from our listener. As a concerned parent, I can only more communities work together with law enforcement, security industry, and lawmakers to take action and prevention rather than reacting after a situation happens. As the adults, we need to do more in protecting everyone in the school system. So, a couple things. First off, I think that we're compartmentalizing issues, and there needs to be a connecting of the dots between the issues to really come up with the answers. So what it appears to me is that it's not that school safety has lost its importance. It's quite the contrary. It's that there has been a decision made to redirect the funds in a different direction that seems to fit into a bigger narrative about making sure that anything that has anything to do with fossil fuels is taken off the market, which, my opinion, you guys can have whatever opinion you want, but in my opinion, that leads into an agenda about global warming. See, I'm not convinced about global warming, and so whenever I see these, it doesn't take a rocket science to connect the dots to these things.
Yes.
And so, but then the question that begs asking is this: it's like, who in their right mind, as an adult human being that let's just separate all the parents from the non-parents. So if you've ever been a parent ever in your life, and you're in a decision-making position of authority within a school board or something to do with funding for children, how can you in good conscience actually make this kind of a decision? This is a moral compass conversation that just doesn't seem to exist. And go.
No. First off, Chris, thank you for that comment. I totally agree with that. And the funny thing is, in Northern Virginia, there's so many people that are very security minded. They work in intelligence, they work in federal law enforcement, whether it's FBI, whether it's regular law enforcement. There's just so much over here that is more than anywhere else that I see. I mean, you could pretty much throw a stone.
It's concentrated, right?
It's very concentrated.
Yeah.
And yet, in the most concentrated area, we have school board members, school board officials that put this on the back burner. Now, recently, the other thing I uncovered was there was an increase in funding for the school board.
Of course.
It was increased through the taxes to cover money that was taken away because of COVID. So they lost COVID money because COVID's over, yet they had to get more money for that to cover the COVID loss, and really don't understand why you need that. On top of that, there was a 10% drop in school attendance. So they lost 10%. Either those kids went homeschool permanently or they went to private school. So you lost 10%, yet you need that COVID money. And then where is it going? Yeah. So as a taxpayer myself, and that's why this resonates. And a lot of people say, well, I don't have kids, or I'm too young, I don't have kids yet, so it's not my problem right now. Well, it kind of is, because this is an investment we're doing for our kids. Absolutely. And second to that, it's coming out of your tax dollars. So when they raise your taxes, property tax across the board for your home, for your cars, for everything, where's that money going? And if it's not going towards the schools as far as the safety and facilities, as far as the upgrades, where are we putting these things? And like I said, I am fine if there's certain initiatives that the community wants to do, such as go green, with certain things. But we have to put our priorities straight. We have to go ahead and take care of the main issue, which is the safety of our kids. And then from there, see what other money's left over and allocate that money towards these other things. But if we don't take care of the here and now, we run the risk of safety for our kids. We run the risk of a mass shooting.
Yeah, so it's just being in present time and really having a good eye for the timing on rolling out certain things without the taking it away from current necessities such as school security.
No, I totally agree. And the other aspect that I would like to see is more mental health in our schools.
Mm.
Our kids are coming from a bad situation. They were isolated for about 2 years, not really socialized, and then they had masks on, and the effects of that. And now you're going to a situation where now all these kids are back in school. They're having a hard time adjusting, a lot of them.
Of course.
And we're not looking at the damages that were done because of COVID and how can we help them. And so I'm looking at trying to get more counselors in there, more psychologists in there to work with the counselors and to identify kids that are having a hard time and then give them the mental health in conjunction with the parents. Obviously, parents are first and foremost need to know everything about what's happening with their kids, but in conjunction.
That's a big issue right there. I mean, there's so much going on in the school system that leaves the parents completely out of the loop, even when they have mandates that stipulate that the parents have to be contacted. So this, I think you're really onto something. And I know this isn't just happening in Fairfax County. I know this is happening all across the country. And so I believe that what your message is that parents really need to get involved, like get right in there in the school board and make some changes. It's the only way.
That is completely true. What I'm seeing in other people running, we had 12 open seats here in November. And means every single school board position is up for re-election on November 7th.
That's fantastic.
And so this is actually a movement of the community to say, okay, enough's enough. We want common sense. The angle that I'm bringing for the school board is my security expertise as subject matter expert. To come in and look at it from that prism. Obviously, I'll be working with 11 others on other initiatives, but that's where my strong point is. And I'm going to keep it like that. And I want to make sure the community knows that coming on the school board, that is what I'm bringing. I'm making sure that the kids are safe and we're putting the money where they need to be safe. And not just the kids. I mean, we have teachers. I talked to 2 new teachers that just transferred from Pittsburgh over here to Fairfax County. And I asked them point blank, I said, did you get any training on emergency action plan for active shooter? And they said no. They have had no training.
Unbelievable.
They had more training in Pittsburgh on active shooter and what to do than they did here in the nation's capital area. And that's amazing. But that's the emphasis. And it's either 2 ways I look at this. Either within the school board, you don't have the institutional knowledge of these things to look at through this prism to say, okay, there's certain things that's prior that we need to do. Or you just want to turn a blind eye. I like to say it's the latter. They really don't have anyone that has this type of knowledge on the school board to be able to say, okay, no, this is where the vulnerabilities are. This is what we need to shore up. I like to give benefit of the doubt on that end.
Well, that's very generous of you. See, the way I look at it, I'm just like, what's wrong with you people?
Yeah, after that comment that I got from one of the school board members, I want to go with the other side of it, but I'm still giving the benefit of doubt, because this isn't about party. This is a nonpartisan position. Yeah. It's just coming from your heart of what you want to do for your community. And that's what I want to do. I'm going to be one of 12 people on that board if I win.
You'll be leading it in the first month. They'll be like, Anthony, what should we do?
Yeah. No, it's amazing. It's amazing. But we have to have common sense. And on top of that, we have to have transparency for the people, for the community. I received the last year's budget, and we're talking 400 pages with no executive summary. I've
What?
written I've written proposals many times in business and corporations. I've even written for the federal government. You start off with an executive summary, and then all the other stuff is, the
Yeah,
data points that if you want to get more data on certain things, you just go right to that. This is over 400 pages and no
unbelievable.
executive summary breaking down exactly what everything is. And you have to go through and search these things. This is not easy to read. And people that have full time jobs don't
Yeah.
really have the time to sit there and go through a 400-page document.
Is it designed that way?
I believe it's designed that way. It's designed to
Yeah,
hide certain things.
sure.
One of the things I would like to do is make sure that everything that we send out, whether it's a budget or any referendum, anything we pushed out, there will be an executive summary page outlining exactly what we're doing and
You're
what the
giving a
finding
really
is.
good model for how each school board should be, how shall I say, like completely revamped, you know?
Oh, exactly. I mean, imagine if you're writing a proposal or threat assessment to a major company and you have them 400 pages with no executive summary. Do you think they're going to be happy about that? No, they
Not
want to
even
get
going
the
to
meat and
talk to you.
potatoes.
They'd be like,
No,
give me a company that knows what they're doing. Where's my
it's
executive summary?
exactly. This is something that is common practice, but yet no executive summary in any of these things. And to me, it's a way for them just to kind of hide the pet projects and kind of hide where the money's going. And
Yeah.
I want full transparency. We all should be fiscally responsible. Myself and yourself, we're fiscally responsible for ourselves. We should hold them fiscally responsible to us.
You know, it's interesting that you have 12 seats that are coming open, and they overturned that one school board in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I mean, San Francisco doesn't get a whole lot more liberal than anywhere else in the country. I mean, that's the epicenter of liberal thinking, and they overturned that school board.
Yeah, and we're doing a good push, and but I want to make sure we stay on message with a lot of things. One of the things I'm gonna stay on message with my campaign is school safety. That is first and foremost priority. Second to that, mental health. What are we doing for our kids, making sure they don't get to an area where they are even thinking about hurting themselves or others? And the third, bringing academic excellence back. Let's get
Yes.
away from all these other things that take up time and money and take up our time of our teachers. And let's go back to academic excellence. Let's go back to STEM. Let's really hit
Right.
hard on the English, literature. Let's do things for our kids. And another point to that is let's have our kids go into classes that will give them trade
Yeah.
vocational classes.
Vocation. Hmm.
I mean, I remember when I was in school, we had metal shop, we had mechanic shop, we had woodwork.
Yeah.
These are things that kids can explore and say, hey, is this something I'd rather do versus going to college?
You know, it's interesting you say that because we had that in my high school as well, and but there was a stigma around that, and I think that that's part of what's kind of happening post COVID is that people are really questioning. You know, is this company where I commute to work for hours every day? Is this really what I want to do with my life? And really seriously considering what's another alternative. And kids are too coming out of high school. It's like, I think I'd like to have a vocation. You don't have to be wearing a suit and tie to be valuable to this world.
Exactly. And I think that's where a lot of additional stress goes towards our kids. The pressure of having to meet a certain standard,
Right.
that any standard
Stereotype.
any standard below going to a four-year university, I'm failing, and that's just not it. There's very good trade schools out there where kids can learn, and some kids like to work with their hands, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, forever in a day, I always tell a lot of people there'll always be plumbing in every building.
Electricity.
There'll always be electricity. There's always be cars out there, regardless of the configuration, whether it's a gas car or electric car. There's always going to be a car. Mechanics are needed. These things aren't going away, and that industry has been frowned upon as less than anything else. And so, giving our kids the opportunity to learn, just learn,
Just
and
keep
maybe
learning.
maybe they want to go into that, maybe they don't. But at the end of the day, if they do go into mechanic shop, they'll at least learn how to, change a tire and change their own oil,
Mhm.
versus being completely foreign to them. So maybe just the experience broadens them as people.
Well, it does, because it changes your brain function every time you learn something new. It increases your confidence and it raises your
Yeah.
self-esteem. I mean, you don't have to turn it into a full-time living, but just having knowledge of being able to take care of things yourself without always having to rely on someone else in the immediate fosters a lot of confidence and self-worth.
I agree wholeheartedly with that. And the problem is when we don't have that, then we're looking at, the self-confidence, like you said, the self-esteem,
Yeah.
the independence. Right now we have a whole group of kids growing up very dependent on everything, from
Technology.
from technology, from leaning on their parents, to lean on the government and expecting the government to take care of them.
Scary.
Some of these things, like going to auto mechanic shop and taking a course in that, gives you that freedom, that independence, that I could do things on my own. I don't need other people to do things for me. I have the
Yeah.
knowledge.
And see, I think that's where, when you're talking about mental health, I think mental health it's a combination of two things. One, where we don't use to our greatest capacity. We don't, that saying, like, if you don't use it, you lose it. Like, if we
Yes.
don't tap into our talents and gifts. And then I think the other side of it is actually having a sense of purpose. Getting up in the morning. I know myself, it's like I do really well when I have a set routine, not rigid, where I can't deviate, but enough of a set routine that I have certain timelines throughout my day where I know I need to be at a certain place within my daily flow. And when I'm hitting that, I'm feeling really good.
Yeah.
And when I'm missing it and there's something off, then it even makes me more off. And I think this is the problem that came out of being locked down. Now, the notion that we don't have any sort of mental health support system in the schools for these kids, it just kind of reminds me of military coming home and not really given any sort of training or support in
Mhm.
reintegrating back into a society that isn't always looking over their shoulder,
Yeah.
where you're always like your nervous system is always ramped up. So, this is I don't know, it just seems to me like it's part of that bigger picture again. One would think it's kind of a no-brainer that if we're going to pull everybody out of their regular routine and lock them down, then to reintegrate everybody back into a normal world is going to require some assistance on a mental emotional level,
Oh, definitely. I mean, you're looking at reconstruction of everything. I mean,
right?
it's going back to normal business, and we're just not there yet. Some of the things that I'm actually seeing, which I'm very surprised, is the lack of physical education in
I
actual
was
school.
going to say that too when you were talking about curriculum. It's like, where's the phys ed? Where's
There,
the team games? And
it's. I mean, they're trying to bring some of it back. I mean, it was a big initiative by some of the parents here in Fairfax County to bring that back, bring some time back to that, but it's just not emphasized. And so when we start looking at curriculum, where is the time going during the day? And maybe we have to revamp and kind of look at what we're putting pressure on and what we're emphasizing, because these are still kids. They're growing. They need to socialize. Physical education
yes,
gives them that. Physical education gives them a chance to work as a team, to do certain things, build bonds together,
yeah,
to laugh and
support
have
each other.
enjoyment.
Hmm.
It's one of the biggest stress relievers, and everyone knows this, but yet we're not doing that in schools. Is actual physical exercise is the biggest stress reliever. I
Oh,
mean, doctors
100%.
say it all the time. Get into the gym, get into walking, get to do something, relieve that stress. But yet we're not allowing that to happen within some of our schools. Not saying it's happening in every school. What I uncovered over here is they took the emphasis away. And if that's happening nationwide, why? Why
Well,
aren't our
yeah, I
medical
mean, and then
people?
we have an obesity problem, yet we don't have physical education in our school.
And exactly. So now you're looking at the obesity problem. You're looking at what they're eating. They're sitting down sedentary. They're not socializing. They're not relieving that stress. They're just sitting down and looking at social media, looking at certain things,
Computer
and
screens.
it's just bringing their mental health down. And
Yeah,
so, you know, I always go back to my childhood. Running around, having fun. PE.
yeah.
Just having a good time, and now it's an afterthought. And so those stressors, what are the kids doing to relieve that?
They don't have an outlet. And then, if they do, it's an online outlet that is so unpredictable and wrought with all sorts of negativity, bullying. Like it just is. It's a loop, Anthony. It's a loop
Mhm.
that just goes around and around. There's no exit to the loop, and then we wonder why we're having behavioral issues with some kids. It's You can't put a human being into a repetitive negative loop and not have a breaking
Yeah.
point. Something's got to give. And it's either they either internalize it and end up ill, or they externalize it and it comes out in violence. And
No,
at the end of
yeah.
the day, the people that are responsible for that are the adults that are in charge. And that's just the truth.
No, I agree. I mean, you look at when they start taking things in and holding things in, it's the worst. We're talking about kids that are in a growth stage
Yeah.
that can't see probably beyond a couple months as far as life.
Yeah.
Because they just don't have that experience. I remember when I was a kid, did I think about what I was going to be doing 10 years later? No, you're thinking about the here and now and how you feel. So
Yeah.
you have all these emotions coming in to you and you don't know how to process that. And then you don't see that things will get better, that this is just the here and now.
Mm-hmm.
And then but you don't see it because that's not how kids are wired. And say, they should be wired differently. They're just not. We were all kids, and
Yes.
no kid growing up, no adult that was a kid, growing up, ever thought, oh yeah, I was playing my 20 years out. I was planning all
Right.
that stuff.
I was buying my
No,
first house. Yeah.
you were worried about what you're gonna do at the end of the week for the weekend and hanging out with friends and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you see nothing beyond the here and now for a child, and now you have all this stress is coming in, what do we expect is going to happen?
Yeah.
We're seeing the ill effects of these things. We start stripping away family values from this. We start, right now the economy is not doing good. And so you have a lot of parents having to work, both work,
Yeah.
and taking away from family time with the kids. And now they're just left there and there's no support. There's nothing to give them. And now you have the stress of going back to school, integrating back into a school society. Now all the pressures of that,
Yeah.
just being a kid with bullying and various things of just being a kid that happens, you're going to have ill effects. And we're seeing it. We're seeing the mental health breakdown of our kids.
Of course we are. And I feel very strongly that, if you took out the critical race theory classes, you could have phys ed in there. I mean, I'm just going to call it out,
There's a
and
lot you could start carving out,
trim that off, And then when the kids are confused about who they are, instead of giving them hormone blockers, actually talk to them about self-esteem and encourage them to how to move through the life changes they're going through. It's like our teenage years are a time of like up and down hormones. They're all over the place. But that doesn't mean that you should go changing your identity and have some kind of a surgery like that. This is just it's beyond comprehension what's going on in our school system. God bless you for getting in there and making a difference.
Yeah, it's you know what I like to say to a lot of people, let's just keep it simple. We're making it complex. You
Yeah,
know, this is
it's
not
true.
the first time in history that kids were confused about life, confused about themselves, didn't feel they fit in to a mold, and it won't be the last time. This is
That's right.
nothing new. And so why are we trying to put certain labels on
And
everything?
making it more complicated.
Yes, because we are just too smart for ourselves.
Yeah.
Let the kids just be kids. Let them go through the ups and downs and emotions, support them, give them guidance,
And
and
love
then
them.
exactly show them a lot of love. And then at the end of the day, once they get older and they become adults to where they can make cognitive decisions on their life, then they can make those decisions.
Yeah.
But to say that you have to be this, oh, you feel this way, that means you're this, it doesn't mean anything to me. What you are is you're a child growing, and that's
Yes.
it.
And it's normal.
And it's normal. You're going through hormones, you're going through changes. It's part of life. It's just going to happen. And let it run its course. And as parents, give them support. As teachers, give them support.
Yeah.
As administrators, give them support and just let them be kids. And that's it.
And let the parents participate. I think another thing that could really happen in the school system now is where parents are more engaged. And I know that that could be a time constriction if parents are working a lot and making ends meet. But um, the teacher can still communicate more effectively. Like I grew up on a farm, and
Mhm.
we were 30 miles from town, and my teachers still got a hold of my parents.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, uh, you know, they were still able to reach out to my mom and go, what's going on out there. Um, but yeah, it can be done if you want it to be that way. I mean, anything is possible.
No, it is. It's creating a partnership, and to me, that starts with leadership. You when you look at companies and you look at issues in the company, a lot of times people look at, okay, well, let's look at the workers. No, let's not look at the workers. Why don't you start from the top? Because the top sets the directions for everything. They set the groundwork. And so for any of these things, honestly, it starts with the school board.
It
Are
really
you
does.
are you being inviting with the community, with the parents? Are you engaging with them?
Transparency.
Are you allowing them to be part of some of these working groups where they have a voice
Yeah.
to be said? That's one of the things I would love to do on the school board, is actually have a parent advisory group that goes through, works with the school board,
Hmm.
that volunteers to kind of go through issues and then get a sense from parents of what we like, what's going on, what direction would you guys like, and then come
Yeah.
out with a collaboration
And
of
increase the transparency. I think the more the
yes,
teachers insert, or, excuse me, the more the parents insert themselves, which it really has to happen that way. I mean, I can't imagine if you've got a school board that is hiding things already. If they're hiding budgetary things, they're hiding other things. So they're not going to, you know, reach out to the parents and go, hey, do you want to come hang out with us and we'll share with you what we're up to? That's just not going to
yeah,
happen. So the only way that's going to work is the parents have to show up and insert themselves, and you have every right to. It's your
yeah,
tax
they
money that's
should.
paying for that school, and that's what's paying for the salaries.
No, it's 100%. It should. And for myself, if I become a school board member, I have no problem doing that. I've worked through my time in the federal government, worked in the civilian sector with collaboration. It's a team effort. We have to have a single vision of what we want
Mm-hmm.
to gain. It has to be a shared vision. And for me, the shared vision is going to be keeping our schools safe, mental health for our kids because they're going through hard times right now, and bring academic excellence back to Fairfax County. That's a shared vision right there. And now how we can work together to get to there, to where we have the
That's
buy-in
right.
from the parents, have the buy-in from the teachers, and have the buy-in from the rest of the community that are not parents, because
Yeah.
they're supplying the tax dollars for this.
Yeah.
And at least we could give a voice, the opportunity for them to have a voice, to have buy-in.
That's
To
it. It's a great model. Really, it
It's
is.
it's funny because it's one of the most simple models that you could do, but yet we get to a point of certain people that start moving into certain areas of power. They feel that they understand or they know everything. They know what's best, and good leaders have really look and say, I don't know everything, but
Right.
I do know that I need to pull everyone together, and I just need to lead them, and we need
Yeah.
to come out with a consensus. Because at the end of the day, this is not about myself. This is not about any of the other school board members or people that are running for school board. It's about the kids. It's about what are we doing about their future. And because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, right now, to here and now, our kids are not worried about 20 years, 30 years from now. They're
No, but
worried
they are our future. So we have to protect them until they're
ex-
ready to start to entertain those thoughts.
exactly.
Right.
Yes.
So in closing, what's your message to the parents?
The parents, get involved. There's a lot of people out there that run for school boards that are not regular parents. They have political agendas that I'm seeing.
Mm.
Uh, they're just not there. Their mentality is just not there. Get involved. What I'm seeing in Fairfax County is a lot of parents during COVID started building alliances, building groups together, nonprofit groups.
Good.
And they're banding together and giving information. I actually get a lot of my information from a lot of them, from a lot of parents hitting me up from these groups, telling me these are the issues that they're seeing all around. But that's just the start. From there, you have to get to these school boards. You have to make a presence, and then you got to vote them out. If they're not doing a
Yeah.
job, vote them out and find the right people. It's like a job interview. I think I'm going to be going through the 7-month job interview for this position based upon what I see the needs are. And the needs are is like what I said. Mental health, keeping our schools safe, and also bring academic excellence back. And so, what I want all parents out there, regardless of where you're at, whether you're in California, where it's a very liberal state, or you're in the red of red states, it's happening everywhere. And it's your responsibility to take that mantle, to stand up and kind of say,
Yes.
what is happening here and how can we bring this back to common sense?
So what's your message for school boards?
School boards, I think the time's up.
Yeah, the
Parents
gigs up.
parents are seeing these things. This is something that's been going on for a long time. So either transparency and working in a partnership with the parents, or pack it up, because I think this is actually a movement.
Mm. How refreshing.
Yes.
How
Good.
refreshing. Man, you nailed it again, Anthony. This is really great. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
How can people support you? How can they find you?
So they can find me on my LinkedIn, Tony.Sabio. They can also find me on my website, votefortonyforschoolboard.com. Website should be coming up today. And you can follow me on Instagram also. Instagram is Vote for Tony. It's going to be coming up here soon. So follow me on different things, and I'll post it out there. My LinkedIn is going to have a lot of these websites to kind of follow. And if you have questions, if you're in a community and they're running for school board, it's coming up because it's pretty much almost everywhere. This is the time. Run for school board. If you want to reach out and talk with me on what you need to do, how you need to shape your message, who you need to connect with, please, by all means, contact me. Contact me on LinkedIn, and I'll be more than happy to talk with you, to video chat, to talk to you on the phone, and help them also, because this is a movement.
Nice.
It starts somewhere, and we got to move it everywhere.
I love it. It makes me so inspired. I think every time I see one of these school issues, I'm just like, it's so saddening. And so this turns out all around. This is really inspiring. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Deborah.
Yeah, thank you. And good luck. And if there's anything I can do to help you get the word out, just let me know and I'll have my team take care of it.
I will. Thank you so much.
All right. You take care. And remember, everybody, vote for Tony. Find him on LinkedIn, Tony.Sabio, and do what you can to support him and get involved in your own school board. Get online, find out who's on the board, who's spinning off, and go get that seat and jump in there and make a difference in your community. Thank you for joining me today. Liking, sharing, and subscribing. It totally makes a difference in how the channel grows. I really appreciate that. And remember, stay alert, stay aligned, and stay awake.